There were always going to be hiccups, but few expected any major problems before the polls even opened. Now, Indonesia's election supervisory body, Bawaslu, has recommended a rerun of 319,000 pre-poll postal votes cast during pre-polling in Kuala Lumpur. It followed the discovery of tens of thousands of ballot papers in a Malaysian warehouse, that were pre-marked for the incumbent President Joko Widodo. Bawaslu officials also recommended the dismissal of 2 senior election officials in Malaysia over an undisclosed conflict of interest. One of those officials happens to be Indonesia's Deputy Chief of Mission in Malaysia, Krishna Hanan. The Kuala Lumpur Election Committee has legally and convincingly been proven to have not carried out their duties objectively, transparently, and professionally in the 2019 election, said Bawaslu Commissioner Rahmat Bagja. Photo: Indonesian voters in Sydney were turned away after waiting hours to cast their vote. Photo: Facebook, Esther Sahardi. That's not all. Officials also recommended a pre-polling station in Sydney be reopened after dozens of people were denied the opportunity to vote last Saturday. A petition to reopen the polls in Sydney gained more than 40,000 signatures. The polling station was overwhelmed by large crowds, with lines stretching 3 blocks. When the poll closed at 6 p.m., voters, who'd waited hours for their turn, were turned away. It's an ominous sign. External link: Indonesian voters turned away at Sydney's town hall. It will be a challenge since the fall of the Suharto regime in 1998. Indonesia has run successful and transparent elections under the most challenging conditions. On Election Day, April 17, some 810,000 polling stations are spread across hundreds of islands, in a country infamous for corruption and crumbling infrastructure. But this year, the degree of difficulty has been ramped up significantly. On top of the presidential election, 193 million voters are also being asked to cast their ballot for candidates in the national parliament, as well as their local legislative representatives. In all, 245,000 candidates are taking part. That's not a misprint. Almost 250,000 candidates are running. So is the Election Commission, KPU, up to the challenge? They have to be, former Indonesian Foreign Minister Marty Natalegawa told The World. The presidential race: the presidential challenger Prabowo Subianto, who is widely expected to lose to the popular incumbent Joko Widodo, has foreshadowed mass demonstrations, if his supporters deem the election to be illegitimate. The pre-polling discrepancies in Kuala Lumpur and Sydney alone are unlikely to meet that benchmark, especially if President Jokowi wins by a large margin on April 17. However, publisher of Reformasi Weekly Kevin O'Rourke says there could be prolonged tension and unrest in the event of a close result. Prabowo supporters have demonstrated a repeated ability to bring as many as 1 million demonstrators into central Jakarta in the past, he told the ABC. That scenario could occur again if there's a tight electoral outcome or a remotely plausible basis with which Prabowo and his team could contest the electoral outcome. Election officials will be praying there'll be no more major hiccups this election day.